Hello and welcome to livealittlehigher.com. The upcoming week we will be celebrating the holiday of Passover, of Pesach, on the 15th of Nisan, which falls in the secular calendar Monday night, the 10th of April. Jews around the world will be together with their families, with their friends, even with strangers. Everywhere in the world there will be ongoing Seder nights, Seder dinners, in every synagogue, in homes, in schools, anywhere. There will be Seder tables. So Rabbi Simon Jacobson gives us a brilliant insight into what the Seder plate means to us and how we can tap into this the intellect and the emotional part of the holiday and the soul part of the holiday, so we can get the relevant part of the holiday in our daily lives. We get together and we remember our exile, our exodus from Egypt. We remember that we were slaves and that we went through very harsh times, actually 210 years of horrible, intense labor. And this is what we relive those 2 nights. And our children are the guests of honor. They have to listen to these stories because they are our story, your story, and it's the story of our life. It didn't happen so many years ago. It still happens. Maybe we're not physical slaves, but we still are mental slaves and emotional slaves to life. And Pesach gives us an opportunity to be able to get rid of this slavery inside of us, a slave mind and a slave body. And this is what Pesach does to us. It gives us a booster shot for the year, and it allows us to be able to transcend and to be able to connect to our intellect and emotions in a healthy way so we can be truly free. So let's begin with the 10 items that go in the Seder plate, which are actually is a microcosm of us, because it contains the 3 intellectual faculties and the 7 emotional faculties, and you're gonna see. So the 3 matzahs, according to the Arizal, represent the 3 tribes, Israel, Levi, and Cohen, that exist today, because those who are Israel is because they don't know which tribe they belong. So if you are not a Levi or a Cohen, you today are part of the tribe of the Israel, and the 3 matzahs represent the 3 intellectual faculties, which are Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat, which is wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And this is the way in which our intellect functions. This is the way we process information. First, you have to have an idea. Then you have to understand that idea, and then you're able to acquire knowledge and be able to bring it into action. So the entire Seder, beginning with the Seder plate, are the tools that allow us to achieve our freedom, that allow us to give us a glimpse of what we are capable of. And so the first thing that they do, the men, when they come from the synagogue, is that they prepare their own plates. This is a custom in many homes in which the men have to prepare their own Seder plates because they're preparing their own journey. And the Rebbe Rashav, when he used to prepare his Seder plate, he used to say, the wagon is saddled, it's ready. And in that way he saw it like every piece that went into that plate was part of what he was going to need, the tools that he was going to need for his journey. And he saw it as a journey. Life is a journey, and you have to be prepared. You have to carry the things you're going to need with you. So we carry our intellect and our emotions. We are part mental and part heart. And to be able to live in harmony, we need to be able to align this paradox, these 2 things that are inside of us, our intellect and our emotions, and not let the emotions carry the intellect and not let the intellect carry the emotions. We need to have a balance between the 2, because if you're a very intellectual person, then it's very hard to feel. But if you're all emotions, then it's very hard to think. So what the Alter Rebbe used to say is that Hasidut teaches the intellect to feel and the heart to think. And this is what Pesach is. This is what it helps us do. So let's see how, according to the Arizal, this Seder plate contains the body and it contains the soul. And the body is the rituals, the tradition, the halacha, the laws that have to be kept in Pesach. This is the body of the holiday. And then it has a soul. And the soul is the freedom that we have to achieve. And this Seder plate is there to allow us to transcend and be able to achieve this freedom. So we're going to go one by one and see as in the body and as in the soul what each one of them represents. So as I said before, the matzahs in the body represent the three tribes, and in the soul they represent the intellectual faculties. And then we go to the Seder plate, to the actual Seder plate, and we have 6 articles, 6 foods, and the 7th one is the plate. The plate in itself, the one that carries all the other foods, is also considered part of the emotional faculties. So to give you a recap for those that don't know, the way we're made up is that we have the intellect, the Chokhmah Bina Dad, and then we have 7 emotions, which are Hesed, kindness, which is in the right side, the Gevura, which is the strictness, the boundaries, the discipline. We have Tiferet, which is empathy, which is harmony, compassion. Then we have Netzach, which is endurance, resilience. Then we have Hod, which is humility. Then we have Yesod, which is bonding, and then we have Malchut, which is majesty, dignity, kingship. So each one of these foods that are in the plate, and the plate being the last is going to be majesty, Malchut, represent each one of these emotional characteristics. So we're going to see. So in the body, the matzahs symbolize the bread of humility, the bread of poverty. And this was when the Jews were allowed to leave Egypt, and they had to leave very fast. They didn't have time to allow the bread to rise. So they just baked it, and it never rise. So they took with them the matzahs. And this is what they ate in their first Seder. So this is what we do. We eat the matzah because the matzah is a humble bread, and it brings us humility. Then the shank bone symbolizes the Passover lamb offering, the Paschal lamb, which was an offering they did the night they left Egypt, and this is what we are reminded of. The hard-boiled egg is the festival. The festival offering of Hagiga in the times of the temple, and it also reminds us of our temple, that we don't have temples anymore, that they were destroyed. If you know, in a Shiva house, when the mourners come from the cemetery, they give them a hard-boiled egg. So in this holiday, we are reminded that we are not complete. We're not where we should be. And then the maror, which is the bitter herbs, represent the bitterness and the harshness of the slavery. The haroset is the mortar, which is made of fruit and wine and nuts. And this mortar is to remind us of the mortar that was used to put the bricks together to build the cities. Then we have the karpas, which is called the sameach perach. And this one reminds us of the subjugated labor that the Jews had to go through. They actually had to go through 60 labors in Egypt. And this is to remind us that. And then, so the Arizal exposes the soul dimension of the Seder plate, and he gives us a glimpse of the 10 Sefirot. Now we go with the emotional ones. So first we have the shank bone, which represents the serach. In the soul, it represents Hesed, because it's like an outstretched arm. And when we're doing kindness, we should always give it fully. and we give it with the right side. So Hesed, as I told you before, is on the right side. It's like here on the part of the shoulder. So every time you give a gift, or every time you're going to pay a bill, or every time you're going to give something to somebody, if you're a right-handed person, you should give it with your right hand. If you're a lefty, then you have it inverted. You have everything inverted. So this is the Serach. And we have to know that how important it is to be kind people. This is the foundation of who we are. Jews are kind people. If you hear there's a volcano somewhere, or a hurricane, or an earthquake, first responders, Israel. They asked for donations. A family had a fire. First people who helped, the Jewish people. So it's something that is embedded in us, this kindness, and it's the most important thing in life, is to be kind. We have to be kind. And then the Pesach, the egg, is Gevurah, is the left side shoulder, which means strictness, boundaries, discipline. And although it sounds as not so good, in truth, the Gevurah is a very important component of our lives. It's like awe, like ira, like fear. Why? Because this is what keeps us away from trouble. When people don't have boundaries around them, they're always messing up. We need to have boundaries in our lives. We have to allow certain things to come into our lives, and then there's certain things or people we have to not allow into our lives because they damage us. So Gevurah is a very important part of our psyche. Then we have the Maror, which is empathy, Tiferet, which is in the middle and between Hesed and Gevurah. And Tiferet means empathy, and in the night of the Seder we recall the suffering of the Jews and the back-breaking labor they had to endure, and all their tears they had they cried because of so much pain. And the Seder really is not intended for us to get depressed and start crying and feel bad. We have to use it as a catalyst for empathy, for feeling other people's pain, to being able to awaken in us the pain of other people. And this is what's important. I heard once from Rabbi Selik Pinsky something beautiful about the Seder, that why do we recount it every year, twice a year? We have to sit down and hear the whole story again. And what is it about? Why so much negativity? And we drink and we dip the karpas in salt water to remember the tears, and it's like a tragic thing. Like if you think in a kid's perspective, it's like horrendous. And he said, no, we cannot look at it like that. We have to look at it in a positive way. We have to look at it in the way in which we have to see, look where you were, look who you were. You were slaves in Egypt. And look where you're now. Now you're sitting in a Seder table, you're reclining like kings, you're with your family, you're safe, you're in a beautiful place, you're having delicious food, and you're recalling the story. So the truth is that we remember this story and we cannot forget who we were, where we came from, because if you don't know where you're coming from, how can you know where you're going to? And this is, I think, one of the lessons of Pesach, is to remind our kids who they are, where they come from, how their grandparents came to America, their great-grandparents came to America, how they were saved from Holocaust, how they had to endure and they had to suffer, but look where you're now, look where you're now. And this is the message of Pesach. It's a message of hope and of empathy towards our pain. It's Hashem is telling us, look where you're now. Look, yeah, I know you have suffered so much, but look where you're now. And this is what we have to acquire that night. So the haroset, which is, as you remember, the mortar, the paste we make with the fruits and the wine and the nuts, represent Netzach. And this mortar was used to build the cities, to stick the bricks together. And Netzach is on the right kidney, and it represents endurance, resilience. It's the ability to be able to stand up after you fall. And this is very important emotion to harness. Like, yeah, you have to understand that sometimes you're gonna fall in life. We are not so perfect. Even though we are learning and we're trying and we're reading and we're becoming wiser and we're trying to be the best we can, once in a while we have a little boo-boo comes along and reminds us, you know what, you're doing great, but you still have a way to go. You still have to fix this. And this resilience is what has kept the Jewish people going. They have gone through the worst of the worst, and they've been able to stand up and start again. You see families, people that lost everybody in the Holocaust, and they got out of it, and they remarried, and they built beautiful families, and now they have hundreds of descendants. So this is the secret of Jewish survival. It's Netzach. And then we have the karpas, which is the boiled, and some people use a boiled potato, other people use a onion, Sephardic people use a celery, but it's humility, it's hot, it's on the left kidney. And this hot, this humility, if you look at this vegetable, it's a vegetable that comes from, it's a root vegetable, it comes from the ground. It's something that everybody steps on. And this humility is very important. And true humility, I've said it in other classes, is to really know who you are, and that you're a piece of God, and that you are made perfect for what He needs you to do in this world. And if you're intelligent or beautiful, charismatic, you have everything, you didn't make yourself. This is something, these qualities Hashem gave you. And that we have to understand that if we were made in a certain way, then there's a purpose for us in this way in which we were made. And there's people who are very intelligent, and there's people who are very outspoken, and there's people who are great artists, and there's people who are incredible with words. And everything that you have, that you possess, that is a quality, it's a gift that God gave you. And humility is to not only acknowledge that God gave it to you, but to live up to it. Because if you don't live up to it, it's like you're wasting Hashem's gift. And this is true humility. And Haseret, which is the sandwich we make in the Seder, is connected to Yesod, which is it's actually situated in our bodies where our reproductive organs are, and Yesod means bonding. And this bonding, they put all this, the maror and the haroset in the matzah, because what it means is that unity is the most important thing it's one of the most important things in our lives. When we are together and we're working together for the same purpose, for the same boss up there, then we are very strong people. Nothing can break us. But sadly, Jewish people forget this, and they start fighting, and they fight because they're this and they're that, and I believe this and you believe that, and then there's no tolerance between each other, and then there start to be sinat hinam, baseless hatred amongst ourselves, and this is a tragedy. So here in the Seder plate, Hashem is reminding us, you know what? You have to be humble enough to allow another person to be who he is, and to accept who he is, and maybe you don't need to be 100% in the same page as that person, but you can come to appreciate them and understand where they're coming from. And this is called respect. And then there's the Seder plate, which is also part of the Seder. Seder plate is part of the Seder plate, and this Seder plate is Malchut. And Malchut is the 10th Sephirah, which is kingship, is dignity, majesty, splendor, and it's also selflessness. So when a person is able to nullify himself to the point where he's selfless, where if someone asks him for a favor, he doesn't feel offended, he doesn't feel they're taking advantage of them, but they see as, oh, I have the opportunity to help someone. This is selflessness. When somebody's hungry and you have one sandwich and then you cut it in half and you give to the other person so they can eat, this is selflessness. And when you're able to put yourself on a side and look at another person's needs, this is selflessness, and this is majesty, this is malchut. So when the Arizal explains that the moon doesn't have a light of its own, it doesn't have a light, it's not a luminary, it just reflects the light of the sun. It's a reflection. So the same way, the Malchut, the plate, is a reflection of the other 6 emotional faculties and the 3 intellectual faculties. It's just a reflection of all that. So when we're able to align all of them in us and we're able to live up to the true person we are by living in this way, then our majesty is going to shine out, because the majesty is really a reflection of the other 6 and the other 3 intellectual faculties. And so this is basically it. I want to wish you a beautiful Pesach, a transcendent Pesach, that the light of Pesach, the opportunity that Pesach brings you this year to be able to harness yourself to build your wagon for the year, it should be done with joy, with love, and with gratitude to God that He has us here, the year 5777 after creation, 2017 for the secular world, and that we're here, we're strong, and we're happy people, and we're going forward, and waiting for Mashiach, and I hope we can see each other in Jerusalem this year. So I wish you a kosher v'sameach Pesach and live a little higher. Thank you.